hold on. There we are. We are live. Good morning, or whatever good time zone place that you're in. I don't. It's morning where I am. It is June the 14th, 2025, Flag Day, and an auspicious Flag Day that will have many, many protests throughout the world. We just heard 1,500 protests. I'm flying a flag right back there, little tiny pride flags, because I want to get in the spirit of things. I am joined by a whole group of people. Let me put them all on the screen for a moment. Hello, people.
Oh,
Hello.
wow.
Thank you to the three people who said hello. Appreciate it. Glad to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. This is the Saturday service of Rabbi Brian's interpretation of what a service would be. And I'm thinking of the word worship, that it's a worship service, but it's not really that. This is more of a let's share some truth, let's have some community, and see what comes of it type service. Today's service has a sponsor, just like on Sesame Street, that sometimes it would be sponsored by the letter E. Today's sponsor is the word some. Is a very important spiritual religious word. It's not all the people who are doing the thing. It's some of the people who are doing this thing. It's not all, it's some. And this is a very important word. So that's our word of the day. Last week I gave an assignment. Oh my goodness. Can't get the math teacher out of me. I gave an assignment because we had some people who were missing last week. And I thought, well, let's try doing this. And let's see if I know Alex and Maria weren't able to be here last week. And I'm wondering if you took really good notes, if there's something from last week that is in your notes that you want to share so that Alex and Maria can be caught up. So question, how many of you, first of all, were here last week? That's a lot of people. That's fantastic. And is there something that was said last week? There's no right answer here. They're just wrong answers. There's no right answer. But is there something that you picked up on last week that you want to share? So ostensibly Maria and Alex can gain a little wisdom.
Well, I saw a post that said it was the best service ever.
It was the best service ever.
Until today.
So
do we need to apply guilt to, because no one is saying anything?
No, it's all good. Dan had something to say. Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say, Chad and Lisa made that post. Maybe you two would like to say why you felt it was the best service ever.
Last week's service was about reviewing when someone comes at you with something that you do not agree with. How do you prepare your mind and heart and respond to that? And there is a myriad of answers that were helpful, and some were very comical. And it was just a wide range of responses and just made for a wonderful service.
Thank you. And we had Gord just put it up on the screen from last week. Hanlon's razor, which was related to this. Never, it should say ascribe, not prescribe. Never ascribe to malice what could be attributed to stupidity.
And I think wasn't the assignment that we were supposed to talk to somebody that differed from our opinion?
Go ahead, Emily. Tell us more.
Well, I think that wasn't the assignment
Did you?
We were to talk
is that
to
something
somebody?
you did?
Did I do that? I'm old. I don't remember.
I will share. There's this little card that I made called the "Dumb Shit Was Said" card.
Dumb shit was said, yes.
And as soon as some dumb shit is said, one is to take this card out of one's wallet or out of one's pocket and merely add a check mark. Oh, look, mission accomplished. Someone said some dumb shit today.
That doesn't mean you, Emily.
No. I understand that.
There was a question that came up from last week. So we were talking about, there were two things that were talked about last week, and they intersected, and I didn't have an answer at the time for it. And I said as much. I said, I don't have an answer to this. I don't know how these two things do fit together. But I will think on it, and I'll ask people, and I found out. So let me explain what the two things were. One was, we said that people will say some dumb shit. People will say dumb shit about misogyny, about race, about homophobia. People will say dumb shit. And that we talked about the broccoli in your teeth image from Jay Smoove, that to see how, without adding rancor and agitation to the situation, how calmly we could interject and say, you know, what I heard you say was this. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pause. We're going to go on that route for a moment, and then I'm going to add in the second thing, and then I'm going to tell you how they intersect. So this was a phrase that Al shared with me last week.
Yeah.
It's blurry.
I know it's blurry.
Read
it. Focus. Come on, focus. Well, what it says is, what I heard you say is, and that this might be a very good way to counter when someone says some dumb shit, is to say, what I heard you say is that you think that blank people are less blank than others. Or what I heard you say is that blank people are entitled to something that other people are not. What I heard you say is blank, and is to call it out. And I thought this was such a great move. So someone says some dumb shit, is for us, instead of going, you racist motherfucking homophobic asswipe, instead of saying that we say, what I heard you say is blankety blank blank blank. And I thought this was such a strong phrase that we should have it in our tool belt, that I wanted us to practice saying it. What I heard you say is. So give it a whirl, would you?
What I heard you say is.
What I heard you say is.
What I heard you say is blank. What I heard you say is this. Go ahead, Dan.
So my question is, the piece that comes after that, is that...
I'm almost there. Go ahead. Let's get there. Okay, go for it, Dan.
Is that meant to be exactly what they said, or your interpretation of the implication of what they said?
It's
the piece that makes it racist without them understanding, or misogynist or whatever.
I think it's just to call it out either way would work. I think. What I heard you say is blibbity blobbity bloobity blue. Is that what you really meant? And if they say yes, say, okay, well, we're going to have a real severe difference of opinion. Or they say, oh my God, I didn't mean to say that. Clarity has been... So the second half, and Dan actually is the one who brought it up, is I had previously said, and then we made reference to it last week, that... hold on a second. I just got flooded in my head. I gotta slow down. I'm going too fast, too quickly, so I'm gonna take a breath, look at all your beautiful faces. Hello, beautiful faces. Let me try this again. This is a deep, there's a lot of pieces here. So to call out homophobia, to call out sexism, to call out racism, we all know to do that. And the other thing that I talked about last week, I made mention of, was that we have to be careful if we are authorized to say something. That we shouldn't just give advice when someone says, I'm having a really hard time with blibbity blop, it doesn't mean that they're asking for our opinion of how we should deal with blibbity blop. But we can say, would you like my advice? Would you like this? Or how can I best support you? How can I best help you? Without self-authorizing to give our opinion. And Dan's question was, how do we do both at the same time? How do we in order to say what I heard you say, if we're in a group of people and you hear someone say something a little off and you call them out on it, are we not self-authorizing and saying something that we weren't authorized to say? Especially if, Jack, hold on a second. I gotta get this whole thought out of my head and try to do it as clearly as I can. Let's say we're with a friend and the friend is Jewish and you hear something anti-Semitic and you say, what I heard you say was this, which seems anti-Semitic. So let's say I'm there with you. One might think that it's on me to call out the anti-Semitism. And what I said last week is it's not on the person, the minority figure, to call out the racism, that it's on us. And that's where Dan's question came in. Well, how do we self-authorize, especially if there's a Jewish person there? How do I self-authorize to deal with the anti-Semitism that I just heard? And the answer is that you are authorized in the name of all that is right and good. You are authorized to say something because racism should not be left uncalled out. You're authorized because homophobia needs to be called out. You're authorized because sexism, patriarchy needs to be called out. That we don't need the Jewish person to authorize us to say something. That we are authorized based on our status, our situation in life, that we are authorized to say something. I feel like I said a lot of words and I'm not sure how well all of that hit. I got a heart emoji on one person's screen, so that gives me some feedback. I got a thumbs up happening here. I got another hearts happening here. Okay. We are authorized on behalf of goodness and mercy and love to call out racism, homophobia. Got it. Okay. I'm going to take comments now from Jack, who was waiting patiently, and then over to John. Go ahead, Jack.
I think the best way for me to handle something like that is to ask a question back. Can we agree to disagree? At least the level of field and go from there.
That I disagree with. You're allowed to say I disagree with what you just said.
Well,
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We are allowed to disagree with people. We don't have to just sit quietly. Thank you, Jack. John.
The thing that struck me is in responding. What I heard you say was, and then describe what the words were, or what the implications are. To use the term homophobic or racist is like I'm setting myself up as an authority to be able to state a fact. And that's one that I would steer clear of.
Yeah. I think you're onto something, that to say what I heard you say was homophobic, that will put the other person on the defensive immediately. What I heard you say is racist will put the other person on the defensive. But what I heard you say was, but not to use those titles, because nobody wants to think of themselves as homophobic, as racist, as misogynistic. But to say, what I heard you say was women should not earn as much as men.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was that we said, without the thank you for clarifying that, John. Without saying the incendiary title. That was the broccoli idea. Okay,
Rebecca has something to say.
go. Thank you.
Thank you. We can avoid some of this if we put it in question form. If we approach the situation, I think, with humility and curiosity, and
Yeah.
did I hear you say
Yeah,
blah blah
beautiful,
blah? And
beautiful.
then even without interpreting, just get the person to say again, and then that second, what does that mean for you? You
Right.
know, so just couching it with compassion and curiosity and humility.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good,
Tonight,
good.
I think you're also coming to something we talked about last week, was not coming at it with heat, not coming at it with not throwing kerosene onto the fire, but this
Right.
this gentle way that you're speaking of, Rebecca, will be much more fruitful for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Good. There is something that was just in the chat, and I can't not bring it to light. Our dear friend Diana just posted that my husband Barry died yesterday,
Oh.
and I'm going to put a poem up on the screen for us to start and our talk there. It's a quote from John Rodell. It says, "When somebody falls apart, don't try to put them back together in your image. In fact, don't try to reassemble them at all. That's not your job. Instead, lay on the ground with them and scoop as many of their broken pieces into your hands as you can. And every now and then whisper to those pieces, 'This is not forever.' That's your job." That being said, when I taught high school, I taught math, and there was a phrase I was very fond of, which was, "There is no lesson in algebra that should not be interrupted for a lesson in humanity." That being said, Diana, is there something you want to share with us about your beloved Barry? Is there a thought, a poem, or tell us? Go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Brian. I have developed an instant cold or RSV or something since he passed yesterday. You know, sometimes the body knows you're just heartsick. But I just wanted to thank you for your hands, a la the poem. And I welcome whispers. This group has given me a lot of support through 15 months of brutal heart failure.
Oh,
And Barry joined us sometimes here. He was sort of called himself an ethnic Jew. But I always knew his roots into Judaism were deeper than maybe he even recognized. And so I have a 7-day candle burning for him to honor the tradition he grew up in. So thank you all.
May his memory always be for a blessing. Let's say amen.
Yeah.
I do not need to be fully consistent. There are prayers that the translation of which I don't really care for, but still I want to say them because they're the prayers that I know. And that being said, I want to chant this prayer, if it's all right with you, Diana, and just to El male rachamim shochen baromim hametze menucha nechona harakia metzura al Nishmat Barry Shehalach Leolamo Bal Harachamim V'Secher B'Sefer Chachaim Nishmat Barry Lecholamo. Vinomar, amen. May Barry be wrapped up in everlasting light. God is his inheritance. And let us all say together, amen.
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 It's hard to know what to say, and there's sometimes absolutely nothing we can say. So that being said, Maria, if you would give us a list of all the other names that we want to add prayers in for today, and we'll take our minute of silence now.
Diana, did you want to add something now?
Yeah, I've said what I needed to say, Maria. Thank you.
Okay. These are the people to whom we are sending light and love. Hugh D., Derek G., Barry in Spirit and Diana, Sherry W., Alex, Sue, Anya G. and Greg C., Mary Mack, Shirley W., Aaron R., Ran Reuven, Greta Vosper, Lisa and family, K.D., Mary F., Robbie, Joan, William, and the Chans, all people suffering from wars, Gwen, Sheridan H., Aru Lane Hill, Ebony and Beth, the Yates, Bill and Harlan, all peaceful protesters, Pauline C. of blessed memory, and Katerina P. of blessed memory. If there is another person in our community to whom we can offer light and love, please put their name in the chat and I will add them to the list on Facebook. And for the people who aren't named, but who are in our thoughts, we send them light and love as well.
Amen. Thank you for that minute. I'm going to ask Diana, and I'm going to ask all of you to be in gallery view for a moment. And I'm going to ask you to do this really simple but goofy thing. I want you to look at the people who are here and to know that you are loved by the people who are here. And then take your thumbs, touch them together, and look at the people who are here. When later today you notice you put your thumbs together, remember this moment. Just a little physical reminder, kind of like tying a string around your finger, but just two thumbs. I want to tell you a story. This story has been on my list of things I've wanted to share for a bunch of weeks. And it doesn't fit exactly with what we were talking about, but that's fine. It's a story of somebody who asks the rabbi a wonderful question. And the rabbi answers I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. So the rabbi, she calls her friends and asks her friends, and her friends say, we don't know the answer to that question. I have no idea. That's a great question. So the rabbis write to the sages, and the sages say, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that question. And one of the sages has an idea of asking Elijah the prophet, and says to Elijah the prophet, I have this question. This question has been repeated over and over again. We don't have an answer to it. And Elijah says, oh, that's a great question. I don't have an answer to that. So Elijah goes to God. It's a metaphorical, this is not a literal theology story. Elijah goes to God and asks God, says, this question has been handed all the way up the chain. And God says to Elijah, that is a wonderful question. Why would you want to ruin it with an answer?
Ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies.
I have two things that I want to get. Something wonderful happened, and I'm going to refer to it in this way. It's an interesting thing for a rabbi to write. John 3:4. I'm not talking about the Gospel of John. I'm talking about actually the John who is here in this group. And I did ask John's permission before I shared this story. And the story of John 3:4 goes like this. John had asked somebody in the group to help to keep him on track, to keep him from saying, one needs to know that, or you should know that, and instead to correct John every time he said that, and the person would hold up a flag. Is that person all right with me sharing their name and location? That person being Meg. And Meg would wave a piece of paper on the screen with the letter I on it to remind John to speak in I statements, not we or they or one ought. And I was in a meeting with John that did not have Meg in it. And John said, well, what one needs to do, no, I don't want to say that. What I need to do is, and then he said, I don't need Meg anymore.
That's stage 5 of learning.
It's exactly where I was going. Or
very good.
In learning, John was at stage 3, needing hints from Meg. But then he got it enough himself. Was he still speaking sometimes in one oughts? Yes. Did he get it? Is he perfect at it yet? Not yet. Or at the time, not yet. But he got to level 4 where he didn't need Meg no more. Meg, don't go anywhere. The rest of us still need you. It's a story of John 3:4. Okay. Thank you, John, for that lovely story.
I would only add to that I hope I said it in a slightly different way. I think at that time I meant I didn't need Meg at that time. I still need her.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Don't worry, John. I'll keep watching.
Good.
Wonderful. So last week we looked at when dumb shit is said, how to deal with it. And I thought this week we'd look at a corollary of when dumb shit is legislated.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an example that I'd like us to work with because it's an example. Hold on a second. We got a rogue microphone again. It's a example of and I want you, please, let's first do this. Take your hands, please, and interlace your fingers together. And notice, just make mental note, is it your left pinky or right pinky at the bottom of the stack?
Right.
Left.
Okay. We're not going to get into fights about this. It's just whichever one you have. And I want you to, in a moment, I want you to do some metacognition, which is to notice what is the dialogue in your head saying. So what you're going to do is to undo your fingers and re-interlace them with the opposite pinky on bottom. And hold it there and pay attention to the words that are in your head. What are the words in your head?
It's wrong.
It's
Wow.
wrong.
Yeah.
It feels funny.
It feels
Yeah.
fun. Okay,
It's weird.
take your hands out. The point of that exercise is, there's 2 points to that exercise, but the point right now of the exercise is that we have a little dialogue going on inside our heads. And I want you to pay attention to the dialogue that goes inside your head when I share with you the dumb thing that was legislated. I want you to notice what is your reaction to it. Here's the dumb thing that's legislated. July 12th will be our 1-year anniversary of having Lori, Religion Outside the Box's best intern ever. And at that service, this is not yet the part to keep it in mind. This is just the facts leading up to it. At that service, I'd want you to bring index card or whatever you have of something that you like about Lori, or something that you learned from Lori, or some wish that you want Lori to have as she continues on as a minister. That's my plan for the service on the 12th. And Lori's going to tell us what she learned from all of us. Here's the dumb shit that was legislated. According to the Unitarian Fellowship, Lori, after her internship completes, is no longer allowed to come to this service, nor are we allowed to be in touch with her.
What?
Notice what's going on when you hear some dumb legislation. What's the first reaction?
What?
Assholes are born every day.
That
Who
sounds like,
legislated this?
that sounds like the opposite of Unitarianism. That sounds like separating people.
Yeah,
That
there's
sounds
definitely a
fucking
lack of
bullshit
unity.
to me.
It sounds like
Right.
bullshit. Keep going. What are the other? That's bizarre. I see. This is exactly.
Nonsense.
Thank you, Shirley.
Why?
What?
Oh, shit.
That's bizarre. And we got
Tribalism.
from Facebook. That makes sense.
I want to say who legislated this?
Okay, so
I'd like to know the reason behind this before I
Ah,
jump on the
ah.
wagon
Why?
and condemn.
that's a great thing. So then the next thing we do, our first thing is utter, and oh my God, I want you to all watch the replay, because when I told you the legislation, you should have seen your faces and your heads. Everyone's head tilted a little to the side, like, what?
Yeah.
And we started with what, and then we get to where Lisa was, which was some anger. And then we got to trying to make sense out of it. And then we had, how do we, as Anne wrote, how do we break the rules? And I will tell us, and I had all of these same reactions. Some people, John was in the meeting when I first heard this, because John and Meg are on the Lori internship committee. And it was explained by Lori's, the head of the internship, Linda. It was explained that should we break the rules, we could be jeopardizing Lori's ordination as a minister. Okay, so how do we react? Remember last week? Last week was how do we react when dumb shit is said? This week is how do we react? How do we react when dumb shit is legislated? And it's different because we can't just say to the legislation, "What I heard you say was," like it doesn't work. What I heard you say was we're not allowed to be in touch with Lori, and the legislation says yes. I will give you a little bit of a. Oh, well, let's go with John and then Patricia and Mason.
I was just going to observe it's religious politics.
Yeah. Nothing's ever done wrong with religious politics.
Well, that's the way they've set things up to have a deliberate break so that there's theoretically no interference when
Right.
one moves on. Doesn't make it right. It's just that was the thinking.
Right. And this is really tasty to us. What we really want is if I could just understand why, it would be more comfortable. And to understand why is a little bit of, well, if there was an intern who might want to take some of the congregation away with them to a breakaway church.
Oh.
Perfect, yep. Emily. Right? Now I understand, and now it's a little more comfortable.
Oh.
For those of you who, let me go to Mason and then Carol.
Thank you. Our Unitarian Universalist Fellowship has just gone through this. We had a minister who took a sabbatical for 6 months. We had another very dynamic person come in during that 6 months. And then our minister returned, and you're right on the subject. We can't interact with him for 2 years. It's related to just that. A minister leaving a congregation and returning doesn't need to be embattled with a person who was just meant to be there temporarily in the first place. And it's like you're saying that that intern could spin off their own congregation.
Yeah.
That's just from the experience of the congregation I've been in.
Yeah, we had a similar thing too. Before we had our permanent minister, we had a temporary minister who was with us for several years. And then she got a more prestigious job with the whole Northwest Unitarian thing as and we weren't supposed to have any contact with her for a certain number of years.
Go ahead, Carol. Thank you.
Well, the same thing happened at the church, the Church of the Heavenly Rest. They had a wonderful, wonderful minister, and he was elevated to be the Bishop of New York. And he is not allowed to go back to his former church for more than a year because he was a very tough act to follow. But the person who had been most helpful for him in the church died. Now, he was not allowed to come back. Well, he got into clothes that nobody would recognize him, and he came to the funeral because he could not come to the funeral. And a few people in the chorus saw him and were very, very grateful that he broke all the rules to attend the funeral.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Jack.
When religion supports business, then they've lost the reason for their existence.
I didn't catch the end of it, Jack. I'm sorry.
When religion gets involved in its business, they've lost the reason for their existence.
When religion gets into business, it loses the reason for its existence. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's well said. And then Candace, I love this. This is trying to argue with the institution. We say to the Unitarians, your principle is free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and you're breaking your own rule. I get that. I get why we would want to do why we want to say we don't like it, and we're going to tell you why what you're doing doesn't make sense. Go ahead, Missy.
Well, I was just noticing my reaction to it, and aside from what I think about it, how I felt when I first heard it was punished, and then when I heard the reason behind it, I was able to understand that there's actually a level of protection provided for others in the decision that I wasn't aware of initially, which I don't like it any better, but it did change my reaction to it. Just to your point of when we know what it's about, it does help a lot. Still think it sucks, but
Right? As soon as we understand where the rule came from, it no longer feels arbitrary and is bad. It's easier. I want to give a teaching related to this. Are there other comments? Hold on. These are from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who is famed for the stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross never called them the stages of grief, and I'm going to call them instead the stages of acceptance.
Denial.
Before we get there, the first thing is, wait, what?
Denial.
Anger.
Wait, so on. Before we move on to anger, which is the next answer, do you remember having that when I told you this rule?
Yes.
Wait. And then
anger sets in.
Fuck them. They can't do that.
And bargaining.
Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. Bargaining. Well, maybe she can come back if she's wearing a disguise. Or maybe it would be okay if, because we're on a Zoom group and it's not an in-person group. Or maybe it would be for the best because we'll get to see how, whatever, we're bargaining. We didn't have a lot of this one. Depression.
Yet.
And then finally, towards acceptance. Uh-oh. You guys say what?
Brian, I want to say something.
Go ahead, Meg.
I am hoping that Linda indicated she would try to find a way to ease up on this particular rule since this is such a different congregation. And Brian is not threatened by Lori's participation in it. But I am hoping that if we have to observe this, that people will, so that Lori's future is not compromised.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
and I do want to say that I think it is one of the most stupid rules around. Our sabbatical, the man that was our sabbatical minister, did point out to me when I was bitching about it that there have been cases where previous ministers have really messed up the current minister's thing. So anyway, I'll now be quiet.
Well, I think that given the nature of this community, it's very hard for somebody to mess it up because Rabbi can just push the mute button and throw them out of the meeting if they become disruptive. So, I mean, the ultimate authority on who gets to play in the religion outside the box chat is, Rabbi Brian Mayer, right? So I find this rule particularly offensive, but I also find it especially offensive because relationships are not like Lego. You can't just snap somebody in and snap somebody out and, and that's just how it is. That's not how relationships among people work. People become attached. People form relationships. People form love, and you can't just go, oh, well, sorry, take that Lego away. You can't talk to this person for a year. That's not how human beings operate. And I think that's the shittiest thing I've ever heard from anything. I mean,
And
I've been in congregations where student rabbis came back multiple times when there was other clergy in place, and everybody was glad to see him, and the rabbi was glad to see him. It was fine. Nobody cared. And so, to me, this rule is just so offensive and so egregiously.
Would it have been better for you, Alex? And I know for me it would have. It would have been better for me had I known this ahead of time. But it just got sprung on me in June that in July I'm not allowed to call Lori. Anyway, I'll get to Dan in a second. I just want to do a quick note of where we are right now and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? What we're doing, we're bargaining with it. We're saying, wait, but if, how about? It's wonderful to know that we're human and we follow some scripts somewhat. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, Alex, I hear what you're saying 100%, and I have a lot of the same feeling, but I also, I think if part of the reasoning is that they're afraid of splitting could be very much encouraged by individual communications, right? As opposed to just coming back to the thing. And so I have some understanding of, to the extent that the thing makes sense, which is arguable, of why that piece is also included, of not talking to people individually. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Dan. We're in a spot. Diana and then Ray.
I just wondered if it would be worth writing a collective letter to say, we will respect this policy. And what would have been helpful was to know upfront and to better understand the rationale.
Yeah.
Just to.
And I still don't quite understand what the restrictions are. Whether can she not be a guest speaker in any capacity in any group? I mean, could she address a crowd at a protest, for instance? Is that
She can do that, but she can't do it with any of the people you see on the screen. Knowingly. She can't be in communication with any of us. And
okay, how about with any other religious group? Could she?
No, that's fine. That yes. she can do. Go ahead, Ray, and then Carol, and then Jordan. Ray, you're on mute, buddy. Ray, we can't hear you. We can't. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can. I just muted thing.
Go ahead.
It seems to me that if one minister leaves for whatever reason for a while, and another minister comes in, and that minister is so good that when his time is up, because the other one comes back, his or hers, that members of the congregation choose to follow that minister, and you deny them that, you're denying them their free will. And any progressive church, and especially what I understand about Unitarians, that's really the other side of silly.
I like the way you say it, right? It is the other side of silly. Carol, and folks, again, I want us to, we're talking about this topic, but I also want us to see what we do when we're stuck with legislation we don't like.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Carol.
So far, all the examples have been of Christian religion. Let me tell you that I knew a synagogue where the rabbi was out and another rabbi was in, and the rabbi who was out came to services every week and undermined the rabbi who was now the rabbi. So I think that there's a lot to be said that people have trouble with people transitioning, with someone else taking over. And it's really not simple.
Yeah, really.
Thank you, Carol. Jordan.
Yeah, Brian. Ways people cope, ways people react. I often find myself reaching for humor. I'm wondering if you told the joke about the shipwrecked Jewish person. Have you told that in this group before?
Oh yeah.
Would you
No?
like?
I'll leave it to you. It's your party.
Okay, so there's an old Jewish joke about the Jewish guy who's shipwrecked on an island, and the rescue team comes and they find him and they say, "Come with us." He says, "No, no, no. First, let me give you a tour of the civilization that I built. Here's the community hall. Of course, I'm the only one who goes to it, but here's the community hall. Here I built a bowling alley. And I go bowling here. Here I built a synagogue so I can pray. Here I built another synagogue. And then here I built a library." And they say, wait. You built one synagogue. Why'd you build the second synagogue? He said, well, the second one I'd never stepped foot in.
Yeah, so I just thought it was right. The tendency to split that schisms. It happens. So I guess that's maybe part of the rule.
I'll add one other piece to it. Seminaries, and I can't remember who told me this. Seminaries' jobs, it might have been Carol, and Carol, take full credit if it's you, that a seminary's job is a seminary's job is to deburr an individual and make machinable parts. That a seminary's job is to make machinable parts so that one rabbi can replace another rabbi can replace another rabbi.
They didn't do so good with you, did they, Brian?
They hired 2 rabbis after I left. Great. Go ahead, Rita.
I just, to me, it's why the only congregation I've ever joined is outside the box. I mean, that box just angers me. I just don't like rules like that. And you've never made one like that I'm aware of.
No, I try. This is a fantastic. Let me put all of you on the screen for a second. This is a fantastic experiment that we're all doing. And I thank you for going along with me. Is every service the best service? No. Sometimes we go off, sometimes but we're doing something really special here. So thank you all for tuning in and doing that. I want to get to my announcements, because if I don't get to my announcements, we are starting a 6-session spousal loss support group. If you are interested, please let me know. I told you that Lori's service is on July 12th, and Lori will be running the service next Saturday. So it will be the last one that she's running officially. And then on the 12th, please start making notes of things that you've learned from Lori or good wishes you have for her. If you want to talk about the God word more, we do have a Shekinah group that discusses God regularly. If you want in on that group, if you haven't ever been on it, let me know and I'll forward your information along. Here's an important announcement.
It's okay not to be okay.
To be okay.
It's okay not to be okay. Now I'm going to say uh-oh, and then you say what? Uh-oh.
What?
Do you remember them? Just see if you can remember.
Oh.
Acceptance,
Depression.
targeting.
Acceptance.
Depression, acceptance.
Yeah. It doesn't mean we always follow these exactly in this order. Sometimes we miss one, sometimes we miss two, sometimes we go back to one. It's to me, it's wonderful to have a little. You know the thing they put on train stations now and subways and for buses, it says 6 minutes until the next bus. It's the same 6 minutes if they didn't have that sign, but when you know it's 6 minutes or the GPS tells you there's traffic ahead, the traffic is much easier to deal with. I find life is a lot easier to deal with if I know that there's a little bit of an order to it. Oh, that's how it's going to go. Okay.
I have one other thing that I'd like to say.
Carol,
I know someone whose profession is to be an interim priest. And his bishop loves him because he can say what the bishop is afraid anyone else says will be thrown out, but he is allowed to take political stances on each pulpit. And he is so glad that he is gone after a certain number of months and goes to another place and raises the same political issues.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
An observation about the next train. We've had lots of construction, and we have places where it's reduced to one lane of traffic with traffic lights, and people say they have to wait 10 minutes for the next light. And when the construction or the overseers come along, put up a sign saying this light cycles every 3 minutes. 3 minutes, if you know it's 3 minutes, it makes it really easy. If you don't know it's 3 minutes, you feel that you've been there for 15.
Yeah.
And we'll tell everybody in the world that damn light was red for 15 minutes.
Right. Yeah. We do like to know how things will be. There was a word of the week. Do you remember what the word of the week is?
Dumb.
Dumb. I want to end with a
Protest.
I want to end with a quote from Timothy Snyder. Uh-oh. Hold on. Here's the quote. Do not dismiss people just because you can find something about them that is not perfect or you do not like. Do not dismiss people just because you can find something about them that is not perfect or you don't like. I think a lot of us are doing this a lot of the time these days. And it's being done to us as well. I'm going to put you all on the screen. Let's talk about this some more next week. Oh, next week's Lori's week. We'll see what you talk about next week. Wave goodbye to the people on Facebook. Goodbye, YouTubers. Goodbye, Twitchers.